Well, well, well. I am flying solo for this lower qualification set between none other than jakulangski and SmrtyCakes. It has been a bit of a Zerg row so far. If you think about it, obviously we had ZVZ in the upper qualification A between AOT and the Night Fox. And both of those players have managed to make it through. Of course, AOT having to do ZVZ against Cannoli right after that, being taken to 5 games. Pretty impressive stuff. We might have some kind of even-keeled matchup here because we are going to be looking at some ZVP. Now, notably, SmrtyCakes does have the superior seed going into the tournament, but because jakulangski made it all the way to the upper qualification before being knocked down, he got preferential seed for this round. And so we find ourselves looking at an interesting map veto here. We will, of course, see jakulangski after banning Rage Slave, which is a fairly common ban for Zerg players in a non-mirror matchup, but probably even in a mirror matchup, to be fair. It's just a bit of an odd one to play on as Zerg, at least that's the consensus so far. Paradise, that has been jakulangski's stronghold and mainstay. He's only lost one match that he's played on Paradise, I think. Definitely in this gauntlet, but maybe in the entire tournament. I'm not 100% sure if he has played it and lost it. Maybe against Mystery Meat or something in the earlier stages. I can't remember if that came up in their veto. But definitely he did lose it against Hupsea when the 3-gate Drakadin play came out. We'll see if SmrtyCakes wants to try and leverage that to his advantage here. So already looking like a pretty common pick there. Because, of course, from the Protoss perspective, from SmrtyCakes perspective, you really want to ban Check Stealer. You don't really want to contend with that. That has been the common sort of thought process for going into a map veto versus a Zerg player. Near Impact, a pretty commonplace map. Seems like it's fairly balanced. Doesn't really, portend poorly for either side of the matchup, in my opinion. Definitely has a defensible choke, and you can get up to a mineral-only third base fairly easily without worrying too much about, spreading yourself too thin. We're going to go into Decapitation and Muspelheim being banned. Muspelheim, another good ban versus Zerg if you're worried about that back base being taken, or indeed that Iron Foundry being infested by a Matrolith. And then, of course, Decapitation, just a map that jakulangski hasn't had the best of times on lately, so it makes sense to ban that as well. If you break down those Monuments of Sin on the ramps, it's really, really easy for you to end up losing the positional gameplay, where as Zerg, you really need to watch out for many different angles. And then, of course, we go to Blackwater Bastion, which makes sense in the context of jakulangski liking his 4-spawn maps. And then Spinal Tap, another good pick from SmrtyCakes, considering this is a map where you're talking about having no ramp into the main or natural, and that does favor Protoss and PvZ. So there you have it there. Demilune will be our decider if we need it. If we even get to Spinal Tap, of course, it could theoretically be a 3-0. I will narrowly edge out jakulangski here, but I do think SmrtyCakes has a lot of play here in this series. And remember that the loser is not out yet. The loser will face off against Cannoli in another best of 5, the last chance qualification. I hope you guys are ready for us to get started with this series, because we are going to Paradise. And now that we are in game, we're talking about SmrtyCakes in the top right. He's got it with that chat message there. He is, of course, red. Of course, you got to watch out for the red Protoss, because jakulangski is not red. Cross spawns on Paradise. That's going to be pretty exciting. And of course, down here in the bottom left, we have the Periwinkle Zerg. Deep Periwinkle. My mistake. It wasn't specific enough. That's going to be jakulangski. Now, gas being harvested for the Zerg player does, it implies at the very least that you're going to be seeing a Larvosk opener, which is a fairly commonplace happenstance in this matchup and in Zerg openers in general. I have seen jakulangski at one point go for Hydrith first, and at one point go for Zorkaz first. So I will just throw those out there, but I don't think that in a series he's likely to do that, unless maybe he goes up like really fast 2-0 or something, and then he wants to see if he can close it out later with it is a little bit of a cheese, and it's not very well mapped out, like when you can actually use it properly. Now, SmrtyCakes is going to be going for the Lattice opener, so that's another thing that I was going to say, is that if the Protoss starts harvesting Vespene before their first production is out, that's probably going to be Lattice. This is vulnerable to very, very early pools, but jakulangski has never done a 6 pool, as far as I've seen in all of the gauntlets. Now, I haven't casted every single one of his matches, but I've casted most of them, actually, because he has gotten deep enough and been playing against some interesting people. And then, of course, there was a couple of matches that I casted just because I was adminning, or maybe I didn't cast them, but I saw them. Now, I haven't actually seen a Protoss go Lattice first since, I want to say maybe it was Arbuz Budesh rocking Lattice first against Luai, all the way back in Gauntlet Stage A, of course, because Arbuz did not play in Gauntlet Stage B. And we are poorer for not having Arbuz Budesh here. The man is definitely a strong player, and I would have definitely had him expected to make it out. Same for Mystery Meat. Feels weird not having Mystery Meat in the tournament. But one of the things that you can and probably should be doing is exactly what SmrtyCakes is doing here, where if you're going to go Lattice, you go Simulacrum. Now, I will say he's actually been a little bit greedy here because he has not found his opponent in the bottom right, and, you know, like, or maybe in general, I'm not really sure what the thought process was behind it. Maybe he's just trying to see what he can get away with, but he has gone for the Pylon Lattice before his first military unit, and that, I think, is actually very greedy. He looks like he's going to be going for a gateway behind that, so that gives him a little bit of minerals still left over so that he can do stuff like an idle, a second idle of production there. That is going to help BTFO, the scientific term, for defeating pool units. At least that is what the intention is here behind this build. If he can get up to a very nice stack of idols, he can definitely get some good value there. Now, jakulangski will probably be a little bit surprised to see the lattices there, or the evidence of the lattice at the very least. Doesn't look like he actually got there. Simulacrum was accompanying the scribe to the bottom, to the top left. Now going to the bottom left will probably end up intercepting at least one of these quas. It is on an attack move, but it looks like actually it's going to at most, you know, intercept some Zeths or whatever. The idols are still being produced, but actually it feels like jakulangski might arrive just as the time span happens where you get 4 of them. Now this sim is going to scout a military move out. It's not really going to be too useful there, but look at that. Looks like jakulangski was just perfectly distracted by the Zeths. He's actually he's caused a few splits here and there, which is kind of funny. I'm not quite sure what he's up to over here. But yeah, there's more idols out now. There's going to be a 4th one popping out very shortly as a second gateway also coming online here for our Protoss player. And the Vornath Pond is going to be the move to change things up. You can see a little bit of a trap being set up over here as, yes, many of the sims do exist, but they were so brittle from before that they die very fast. Now, that's still good scouting and good, like, distraction again, because it did allow those quads to get destroyed by the ramp. So I'm very glad to see that, but we do have a Zealot coming out, some bit of a front line there for the idols, which is definitely much needed. A 3rd lattice being deployed. Good gas saturation here over on the main base. It looks like we have, what, is that it looks like 3 workers on each gas, yeah? Okay, so definitely going to be maximally exploiting the one base situation. And remember, jakulangski did end up going for the Vornath, as well as a delayed expansion. So this is not really that bad for SmrtyCakes. He does have a superior army. The question is he going to move out at the right time? Because without being able to, I mean, I guess you could take a lattice and start making a vassal or something if you don't mind pausing idle production out of one of your lattices, especially now that you're going to get 3. I feel like that would be a good move. That does give the Protoss player a little bit of an idea as to, you know, what my opponent is actually doing. Because again, you can see jakulangski is very lackadaisically harvesting Vespene with 1 gas miner. This is just so that he can slowly build up enough gas to get stuff like, you know, another tech structure or maybe a Larvosk. He's not really banking up a crazy amount of gas right now. For comparison, he could only make like 4 pairs of gnats or something, maybe even less. So yeah, as a result of that, it feels like that's not really going to be his MO. If Smarty had been able to scout that, he would have definitely just been able to use his the presence of his vassal to see that out. Now, instead, it's going to be a Vornath push. Now, at this point with the idols, right, the idols are still dealing a lot of splash damage, but once the quas get a bunch of shots off of them, basically unabated, the quas will eventually be able to try to turn this into jakulangski's favor. He's trying to use the Vorv to actually slow down units. Obviously, it's a little bit harder with those melee units. He does end up sniping a vulnerable idol that was very brittle from prior damage. But there's more idols where that came from, and it definitely feels like jakulangski does not have the composition necessary to deal with this. The idol stack has been achieved, and there's 10 of them now. I think really what you look back at that fight that we were watching as I was sort of talking about the vassal scout and the Nathakor potential is what you would really want to see out of that fight is jakulangski somehow getting rid of those zealots in the earlier stages of the game without having to lose all of his front line. Even as of right now, jakulangski did do a pretty good job of getting a little bit of value from his Zeths, but then he ended up just chasing a little bit too far, right? His Vorvs were still mutating, and it was definitely the case where like Smarty moved out without actually waiting for his front line, but it ended up being a good choice. Now, as of right now, jakulangski is going for the Hydrathen. It's just about to pop. He's starting to add some static defense, but it will be another 20 or so seconds before those circuits are ready for combat. During this time, jakulangski can still try to edge out the a bit of a defense here because he has 11 Vorvs and 5 Zeths. That's going to be a lot of front line, and there's only 11 idols here, so they can't really simultaneously pressure the Zerg player when it comes to their front line, but also kill the circuits, right? You do need a lot more idols to deal with circuits than you might think. This is actually a place where, in general, it would be much better if SmrtyCakes had a couple of Dracodons or maybe many more Zealots. You can see him putting down another Warden. He wants to keep the pressure up. He has not not actually scouted any evidence of a large amount of gas expenditure, so it makes sense for him to be nervous about the Nathicores right now. Jakulangski is going to go ahead and see if he can do a bit of an engagement. The Zealots were not in a great position there for SmrtyCakes, so he ends up paying the price by having to pull back. You can see this round is starting to fail Jack, though. His front line is starting to crumble. Hasn't been enough as SmrtyCakes falls back to that ramp there, trying to get the cliff advantage. There is no more on the side of Jack. There's no more front line here, and the idols will continue to punch on through. Remember, on an even-keeled playing field, this does end up favoring the idols pretty significantly. Good pullback there as well. SmrtyCakes saving a couple of his idols, and look at that. The quads have just been made in mass, but SmrtyCakes at this point, he definitely has a bit of an advantage in a heads-up fight. It's just a question of the fact that he hasn't been able to get an expansion going, that even though he's at even workers, there's a little bit of less worker efficiency on minerals, and for sure, if Jack wants to start splitting into extra gas harvesting, which it looks like he sort of is, but not really, not significantly anyway, that is something where Jack can definitely push his economic advantage. And of course, he is going to choose to continue throwing units at the problem, seeing if he can maybe just drown his opponent in corpses, trading so many Zeths and Quas for just one idol. Not exactly a high EV trade there, as Jack once again has to fall away. I mean, it's only one Zealot, but Quas actually take a really long time to deal with Zealots. It does feel like maybe there could be more on that front, but SmrtyCakes is going to stick to his current situation. A lot of Orbs are being morphed here, but that is going to eventually get softened up. You can see the cancel there. Instantaneously, 2 Zeths go down. 25 whole minerals. Great efficiency there. Now, I will say, the Hydras are out, and the Hydras can deal with idols a lot better, but, you know, if you have that front line, I don't know where the Zealots went. It looks like maybe one of them just died too fast, and the others were not actually there yet. SmrtyCakes fighting outside of the control of his Zealots right now. Does feel a little bit desperate for him. Like, maybe he's been expecting to do a lot more damage than he was, but he saw that he was all in, he saw that he was held, and this pretty fast game, sub 10 minutes. It goes the way of Jakulangski just on the hold. He might have been a little bit confused there because he hadn't been able to scout his opponent for so long. And indeed, his opponent did not have a natural expansion. Now, I'm not 100% sure about whether or not the game plan of going for the fast early lattices, the fast 3 lattices, into straight up trying to contain the Zerg or whatever was attempted to be there is exactly a good game plan to go for. But I do like the energy that it brings because it is going to make Jack think a little bit twice, a little bit, you know, maybe a few more times, you know, a little bit deeper about doing greedy plays, and sometimes he does get a little bit on the macro sauce, right? So we saw him do a septuple expand on Spinal Tap versus Shopkeeper Dog just a little while ago. All right, Smarty, let's see what you got when we're going to game 2. Straight into near impact. It's Jakulangski in the top left as, this isn't saffron, is it? I'm going to say, I don't actually know what this color is. This could be Arrowlight Yellow. Okay, all right, I do know what that color is apparently. And SmrtyCakes down here in the bottom right as, this is either green or dark green. I'm going to say dark green. There we go. Okay, dark green Protoss. Okay, so we do have a better round of color guesses here. This is, of course, a 2-spawn map. Jakulangski making the bird beak face, and he is not red, unlike that one time where he was red. Exposed! I will go ahead and shout out at this point. If you've been enjoying Cosmonarchy, if you've been enjoying our tournament content, our casts, our game, well, you can support development of it. There's a link in the bottom right of your screen, and also, of course, in the description box. Goes to our coffee page, coffee.com/VertigoandV7. And yeah, pretty good stuff. I'm a fan. I like it. I appreciate it. We have some bounties that we have to get to, actually, because Jujic, one of our supporters, submitted for a stream that involves working on faction development. I'm definitely going to be looking forward to doing that. I did a little bit of that kind of recently, but I'm going to do more of that later. And of course, Shambler has an outstanding bounty. I think Hit 'em Up does as well, as far as if they want some content made for like maps or whatever. We do get requests to port maps or make new maps or what have you pretty frequently. So you can do stuff like that if you want to contribute towards Cosmonarchy's map pool in whatever way you seem fit. I'm still waiting for somebody to bounty like a campaign mission or something, because that is technically on the table if they want it. All right, it's going to be SmrtyCakes going for that lattice again. It looks like he will be doing double lattice before a military unit, but he still has enough minerals here to go for a simulacrum or indeed an idol as his first unit. But instead, he's going to go for the sim. He looks like he idled his scribe, thinking maybe I could do something else with that. Maybe he wanted to drop his gateway immediately if that's what he was going to go for. He's going to continue that. He feels like that's the way to go instead of going for a gateway-centric composition. And the risk, I think, that you invoke when you do that is, obviously, if the early pool happens, then your units come online less fast, right? I guess if you have a sim in a mineral line, Zeths probably aren't going to do too much, right? Because the sim is just going to shoot forever. And it does okay DPS for, you know, a tanky unit that it is. Yeah, that's right. I just said Sim does okay DPS. Somebody is probably going to try to hang me now in the comment section. But, you know, versus Zeths, I think it'll be okay. Especially if there's like a bodyguard of workers, right? Now, it's going to be Quaz first for Jack. As a Protoss player, you can try to play around the extremities there with your Sim and just get a couple of free clones. If you get hit 4 times by a Quaz, then you should actually be good to go. But it looks like that was way more than that. So actually, it looks like it was only 3 times that you need to be hit. And oh, look at that. Look at that. He got a couple of clones. That's good DPS extra, right? I mean, it's not great for tankiness, but, you know, he had waypointed a couple of Sims across the map. Ooh, you know what? I actually wonder, there's only one idle right now. Would you be able to beat just straight up pool units with nothing but 3 triple lattice sim spam, and then, like, also be able to get a Nexus up at the same time? I don't know. I wonder about that. The other thing, too, that I think is kind of neat is if you were able to flex into, like, 2 or 3 vassals, you could start heckling the workers, forcing them to burrow, forcing some Quaz out of position, maybe a Spraith be made. Little things like that you can do with just a few minerals from the Protoss side. But, of course, that's all in the imaginary world, the hypothetical world. Maybe some Protosses will think about doing that. Obviously, honestly, it should be pointed out, if SmrtyCakes does not qualify to the Battlement stage, it will just be Nebulime rolling the Protoss. Now, occasionally Hit 'em Up will also roll Protoss because he's random. But as far as bona fide, actual, you know, guaranteed Protoss play, it's Nebulime and Smarty. And Smarty is, well, he's down 1 game. We'll see if he can do more. All right, a Hatros coming in for the natural here for Jack. He is going to go for his Vornath. I will point out, he's actually floating a lot of larva. It feels like his build order not necessarily the most optimized. When you think about, like, you know, building the Larvosks, if you're not punished for the inefficiency of building all of these extra larva production structures without actually using the larva to begin with, then, you know, all right, it's fine. But it looks like he didn't have enough money to actually get what he wanted to get there. Now, the Horde of Sims will indeed go across the map. It was scouted, and now Smarty is immediately falling back. I don't 100% know why. Maybe he's worried about, like, a Nath spike, but I feel like the likelihood of them hitting in quantity is a little bit low at this point. There's a Golem being made. That is a unit that we didn't really see in that last game that I feel like versus the Quaz heavy comp and also versus Hydras, to be honest, if you get enough of them, that feels pretty good. Now, there is a Rogue Gallery as well. There's a Charlatan being made. We don't really see that unit too often. The Sims are kind of the phalanx here, the little defense play. It feels like if they were pulled back a little bit after that first engagement, you might have gotten a few more clones out of them. Right now, the Idols are just doing their best to shrink this Quaz pool, you know, the pool of Quaz units, the pie, perhaps, and see what he can do as more units are streaming across the map. Remember, Sims move pretty fast, so you can actually reinforce with them pretty well. Idols do okay movement speed-wise as well. Yeah, the Simulacrum frontline, pseudo-frontline, that is not bad. It's honestly not bad. You can see how much jakulangski is being whittled down by the Sim and Idol style here. I'm sure Arbuz is watching this and going, what? You can make Sims and they are actually good? Well, they're not terrible right now. They're honestly not terrible. Remember, Jack has a lot of larva, not necessarily a lot of resources to spend on that larva. He is making a ton of Quaz, but this is denying him access to workers. Again, Smarty is pretty all in. He's not building an Axis, so he will be maybe a little bit behind there. Look how long it takes them to kill the Golem. Oh my god, it takes so many salvos to kill the Golem. That allows the Idols to move up a lot better. They are going to go ahead and kill that Kagrant before it can turn into anything, and now most of the 16 Quaz that were just made are dead before the next round actually hatches. Some Vorvs are being made. Another round of Idols. Remember, the cliff advantage is allowing a lot more of jakulangski's Quaz to get in on the action. I love the pullback from Smarty. That is going to set him up for some really nice shots here. And I actually don't know if jakulangski can breach this. There's so many of the Idols. He keeps on pulling back. More and more reinforcements are coming. There's an Idol and a Golem standing idle over there. They definitely need to get into the fight. Or maybe they don't need to get into the fight. Remember, Charlatans were made but not even rallied, I don't think. The hatch is going down. I think SmrtyCakes has done it. I think he's cracked the code, and now it's up to Jack to figure out an adaptation. I mean, he's making a lot of Quaz on the high ground. He is making a Hydrith Den now. His Vornath is done, but he can't really use it for anything. He's got so much gas in the bank. Yeah, I don't think Jack is actually going to be able to handle this. The Golem allows the run-up. That's going to neutralize most of the cliff advantage. Well, actually, SmrtyCakes is going to fall back. He has another Golem that he can use to try to bust up that ramp, and it looks like round 3 for him to try to get up there. Let's see what he can do now that he's gotten rid of the natural. Jack definitely low on the totem pole when it comes to the economy. His Hydrith is finished, but he has no minerals to speak of. He's been doing pure Quaz for quite a while. Waiting for some reinforcements. The idle stack maybe draining a little bit here, and it looks like units will be on their way forward. And you know what? I think actually this whole time I've been saying there's a charlatan ready, and that's actually the production icon of the golem, and I was just really confused. So don't mind me talking about charlatans. Those are golems. That's what was being made there. But now it's 4 idols every production round. Love to see that. And of course, the golems are going to go ahead and charge up the ramp. They take so long to bring down. Not enough hydras to actually focus them. You can see how much damage they were absorbing, and now the idols have broken through. There's only a few hydras to speak of, and that is going to be game. Jakulangski simply cannot hold from this point onward. Okay, it took a little bit to grind through all of that, but SmrtyCakes figured it out and has tied the series on his own map pick. Well, we're going to have to go to Blackwater Bastion to see who's going to take the lead, but at least we know we get 4 maps out of these 2. Maybe there could even be 5. As of right now, I'm looking very much forward to seeing what else happens because the adaptation is going to go back and forth. Will Jack actually bring out the early pool? Let's find out. And we get straight back into it. Once again, SmrtyCakes reprising his role as the dark green Protoss in the top left. Jakulangski now is... Ooh, this is a very interesting color. Is this dark olive, or maybe, oh man, this might be like a weird color I'd never see, but I'm going to guess dark olive. Dark bronze. Well, I was half right. No, I was never going to guess dark bronze there. All right, he's the dark bronze Zerg in the bottom right. Maybe that should be like a cool thing that you could do for ranks, is like, you know, we have the idea of the different classes of rank, right? And instead of colors. But like if you were going to go back to colors and you had like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, whatever, then I feel like you could definitely do something like, dark bronze would be at the very bottom, and then there'd be bronze, and then there'd be light bronze or something. And then, because like the coloration gradient or whatever gets less dark the higher up you go in the rank until you're fucking pearlescent of some kind, some ridiculously bright color like glacial. Winter is coming. And so too is the standard opener here for Jakulangski. This is going to be cross spawns, and SmrtyCakes has scouted his opponent. So he will know that indeed it's going to be straight into pool and etc. It looks like the adaptation from the last game for Smarty worked really, really nicely. We've got triple lattice as his nom de jour, but we'll see if he wants to go right back to it. You know what? I should figure out if nom de jour actually means name of the game or name of the day or something like that. I thought du jour was like, strategy of the day, right? You could say strategy du jour, but nom is obviously name. Je parle un peu français, and that's about all I can tell you because even my pronunciation ain't good. But it's good enough to flirt with people who don't know French, and that's really all you need it for. SmrtyCakes going to be continuing the lattice-centered tails. This time he's actually got a lot more gas, so it's not going to be triple lattice as far as I can tell. Instead, he's going to be going for something else. No, never mind. It is going to be triple lattice, just a little bit more on the gas side, banking that Vespene so that he can pump the idols. And now we know as well, Charlatan icon equals Golem. We won't get confused by that. I didn't obviously fix that between the games. I guess I could have, but that would have been a bit silly. Now, we're going to see a Zorkish Shroud very, very fast here for Jakulangski. This is kind of, makes sense as a potential adaptation because Lakes do work really, really nicely versus things like the idols, just based on the fact that they clump up a lot more than, say, Dracodons. I do love that we are going to get a Vassal out nice and early here because that first sim moves across the map, gets tickled a little bit. Yeah, sure, you're going to get a clone out of it. Not bad. He's going to go ahead and continue waypointing those. But if a Vassal comes out, it feels like he can definitely... Oh, I love the burrow there. Yeah, I feel like if the Vassal pops out and actually scouts this, he can see the Shroud, and he can immediately know, okay, I should probably go like Stargate, or maybe Heavy Gateway, or at the very least maybe get an Embassy so I can get detection, something. Yeah, that can definitely work out pretty nicely there. Jack looks like he went from an N scout, or in this case like a Z scout, scouting from the bottom right. But that does not end up going too well for him, because... he doesn't really get much information about what his opponent is all up to. It's like a Roman numeral X now, because Jack scouted, bottom left, top right, top left, and then Smarty just cross-scouted, I think. It doesn't look like he scouted to the bottom at all. And now his Vassal moved across the map, and now he's going to draw a little bit of a box there. He will see the Shroud. I'm not sure if he's going to stick around long enough to actually check out what is hatching from these eggs. He hasn't looked over to his enemy's base just yet. It looks like he's going to wait. He's studying other things right now. You know, he's going to be getting tickled here, and then he'll actually take a look. So that should well, surely he'll take a look. There we go. Okay, well, he doesn't actually see the units that are popping out, but getting the Shroud is pretty good. Shroud Scout, he knows what's up. He's going to go ahead and go for an expansion. He's just going to see if he can hold it. Now that he knows it's a Shroud, he knows it's probably not going to be Naths. I mean, he knows that there's no Vornath. So if you're going to be going for a more air-based harassment strategy, you're definitely going to play things a little bit differently. Now, 4th Lattice is out, and Embassy is just about done, about 75% of the way through. That means that in the middle of an attack by Jack, especially if he doesn't pull the trigger immediately, the Witness should actually be pretty soon to be there. Now, I'm not sure about the double Warden in the main, because that does leave your choke very vulnerable, but I guess if you're baiting them in to attack the Nexus, you can probably win the fight that way. Let's see what happens. It is a Witness immediately, so Smarty not playing around with regards to his response to the potential Lakes push. And there's only 2 of them. So honestly, that's not really the end of the world there. You can see Jack is going to chance the ramp. The Witness is about halfway complete. So as long as Smarty just continues to whittle down the front line here, the Zorius not actually engaging onto this force, and even if once they do, it's not really going to be the best move there, best use of jakulangski's HP. He's not actually pressuring that Nexus at all. He has almost no armor pen here with this force. There's the Witness. It will indeed see that the Lakes are there, but no, the Witness has gone too far on the rally, so they can't actually fight that second Lakes. Okay, they will end up getting rid of it. The Warden from the main base even helping out with the DPS, and it looks like this should actually be held. We've even got an idle worker there, a battle worker, taking care of some of these quas, and that Nexus is done, so Smarty will be able to stretch ahead with worker count, and he's even kept a lot of his military up. Jack not finding too much success with this committal. He is making 4 Lakes, but that's going to be more for the defense. And again, the difference between Idols and Drakodons when it comes to fighting Lakes is so immense that the Witness moving across the map right now, I mean, Smarty can tell the push is held. I feel like at this point is going to be just fine for the Protoss, but if the Lakes get into a nice burrowed position, especially on the cliff, you just aren't really going to be able to do much there. Now, one Lakes is going to get caught over here. It looks like Smarty will not be able to actually kill that because Jack has turned it around. He's got 4 more Lakes coming. Okay, now it looks like Jack is maybe not sure if he can actually complete this push. The Witness continues to fire on all cylinders, just barreling into the enemy base, not actually coming back. Okay, now he's turned it around. Needs to get his army all together. The one Zorius will indeed absorb a lot of pressure, similar to the Golem, actually, in the last game. You know, the few Golems that end up getting out there. A couple Golems for Smarty wouldn't hurt, but he doesn't really have that many minerals. Remember, he's spending a lot on workers right now. So here comes the Witness. It is going to be with the army, and the rest of the front line is all dead, so it's just going to be quas. You're not really going to be able to pressure inwards here as Jack. He's going to set up for a soft contain, but it looks like Smarty might want to try to pressure that. Maybe those reunits were actually just going to kind of on autopilot here. But yeah, forcing a couple of the unburrows makes the contain a lot less scary, and the idols are going to be just okay. And Ovaleth is even here to try to maybe snipe the Witness. I like the idea. It can also be used as a flex to transport, so you do have to watch out for that. One of the Lake is very, very low right now. Let's check in on what Jack has been doing, making a lot of quas. There is not a second Witness to my knowledge, so if he doesn't kill this Ovaleth, he is going to be potentially in the hurt when the Witness gets sniped. To my knowledge, there is not a second Witness on the map. There's definitely not one in production. Oh, okay, that was just an idol. For a second, I thought the Witness somehow died. Okay, dodging Lake his spines for now. Looks like he won't end up losing too much. The Zorius does tag the idol, and that does mean every other unit near the Zorius, or near the idol that's been tagged, is going to go ahead and get sped up. And again, okay, we have the Witness, we have the idols, we have some sims, and a Crucible has been added just to power up the production time of that stuff there. Now, one of these Lakes could be killed very easily, but I love standing the quas in front of the shots. You got to fall back on that. That's 4 dead idols on the ground. How many on the Lake side? Really only 3 left. I mean, this is not the most powerful army, but you got to keep them away from your workers. SmrtyCakes abandoning his position here is maybe not the best move that he could have done. He ends up losing 3 workers pretty quickly. That could have been a lot worse. Not producing too many right now, adding 2 gates, adding 4 idols to the production value. Okay, that Ovaleth never actually ended up doing anything. It looks like it was abandoned in the bottom left of the map. And so this is going to allow the Lakes to be sniped without really worrying too much. But Smarty needs to move. His Nexus is taking fatal damage right now. It's being focused down, and he's not paying attention to where the enemy is targeting. He is going to lose the Nexus, basically just because he's refused to attack into this Lakes ball. Jack now setting up for a very deadly contain. Now that there's more than just 3 Lakes, you no longer can really attack into that position. Oh my god, it's just brutal. I mean, he can see it very clearly because he has the witness too. Definitely needs to maybe set that off on a different control group or something so that he can just park it with a hold pause. Or, you know, leave it on stop so that if a quaz attacks it, it falls away. That's also something that works out. Some of his workers here, not actually mining because they're stuck over there. Instead, he's got Crucible pumping out nothing but idols. He has got a couple of Zealots coming out here. The Ovaleth scouting forward. A hatch now coming down for Jack. It's really funny to me that this series has been so aggressive. And look at that. The Witness will be sniped now. Almost certainly. There we go. It is going to be dead. So now Smarty's going to have to rebuild that one. He does have the gas in the bank necessary to do it. But a lot of that is just because he didn't kill the Ovaleth when he had the chance back in the middle of the map earlier. A couple Zealots being offered up, just one actually. The other one kind of stuck right now. And moving up the ramp is really where things are going to get awkward for Jack because his front line is basically dead already. The Quaz, as they thin out, are going to allow the Lakers to end up dying. He's going to go ahead and try to target that Warden. A lot of workers go down, but it's not that bad if Smarty just sticks it out. Looks like maybe there's that detection from the Crucible, allowing the Wardens to snipe out those Lakers, but now the worker count has fallen very dramatically. And you know what? If you've been in this position before versus Zerg, you know there's still a Hail Mary chance. Are they going to be making units behind this? You're not sure. They might have been making workers. You got to move across the map right now and go for a killing blow. Get those workers back to mining, produce units, and rally them across the map. At this point, a Witness is about to finish. That's going to be detection for the 10 Lakes that are being made by Jack. He has almost no economy behind this that you would expect. I mean, he's already starting to run depletion into one of his mineral fields in the main. So that just shows you how far back he is. But Smarty, okay, he is going to scramble his workers back onto minerals. That's going to be good. Evacuating those that were spared, you know, in terms of their livelihoods. Moving across the map, the Witness is in tow somewhere, I hope. First Lakers might get sniped there, but Jack is pretty quick to pull. He definitely has the advantage right now. Ooh, one more shot from an idol would have killed that Lakers, but there are so many of them still. This is so imba! Smarty saying what's many Protoss are thinking right now. He doesn't know that there's no economy behind this, really. That's one thing that Jack has in his advantage when it comes to the, what would you say, like the psychic game, the mind games. He's going to try to move a few of the Lakers further up, but this is definitely working in his favor, thinning the herd. Remember, this Protoss army, a lot harder for Smarty to replenish. Although, right now, Jack is not producing almost anything. Remember, his economy very, very much in the gutter. Neither player producing anything. It's a micro battle to decide the fate of Game 3. And it looks like Jack is going to win out there as he ascends further with more of the Lakers. Idols are all that is left, and they do not outrange the Lakers. They will be destroyed. That will be GG. Smarty not happy with the outcome of this game. That will be it for our third match. Okay, well, Jack's striking back. At this point, he is on qualification point. It will be his second Acropolis if he manages to make it in. And I did give him the narrow edge. But what will SmrtyCakes do in Game 4 to see if he can bring us back? I'm liking what I'm seeing here because we're on Spinal Tap, a map that SmrtyCakes picked, a map that I feel like he should have some kind of advantage, some kind of sneaky game plan here. He is in the bottom left as, is this Midnight Green? It is. Okay, Midnight Green Protoss, and Jakulangski is in the top right. Ooh, this is like a darker version of Asparagus. Oh, this is Russian Green, isn't it? It is. Okay, well, Jakulangski momentarily defecting to Russia just for this game. He'll be back in whenever he plays again next. This could be his last game in Gauntlet Stage B, or it could be the start of a painful journey. We've got to find out. It's going to be a K-Grenade pool yet again. Jack's main adaptation in that Blackwater Bastion game was definitely the whole ordeal of going into the Lakislisk, right? So the Zorka Shroud does give you some really nice options there. The Zoryus, I feel like maybe they weren't used the most responsibly. A little bit of better positioning could have gone him a long way. But I also feel like Smarty definitely invested a lot into defense with the Wardens in his mineral line, even though he had the tools necessary to pick off air units should they show up. He had all of the idols to deal with splash damage, or deal splash damage, rather. So it feels to me like it's an option for SmrtyCakes to have instead invested that defense in the front line. And if those two Wardens were near the choke, they might still have been hemorrhaged a little bit, but I feel like then Jack maybe just doesn't even consider the attack at all, and he's invested into this early game tech and has to now pivot into a different strategy, and that changes up the game plan. That being said, it's a impossible thing to really project out, like, oh, what happens if this changes or whatever. But I feel like that little adaptation might have helped out Smarty in that position. he is going to be going for that fast sim. I really like the sims on near impact. I feel like that's a strategy that, like, say a hypothetical scenario, Smarty doesn't make it in, or he makes it in the next tournament, the next match rather, versus Cannoli. Again, if jakulangski does complete the series, whether it's 3-1 or 3-2, if Smarty makes it in or not, Neblime is looking at this, maybe Hit 'em Up's looking at this and thinking, Simulacrum. I mean, Hit 'em Up usually doesn't think too much about how other people play, but I know Smarty it could influence Neblime, because Neblime is the kind of guy who will, like, Biddy will DM him a strat, and he'll be like, yeah, you know what, that could really work. And, you know, he'll fight against Lundier, and Lundier will be doing, like, the Warden only push, and he'll be like, wait, I wonder if you could do this. And, like, he'll at least experiment with it. Now, it looks like Jack will be gifting SmrtyCakes a lovely, almost full HP Simulacrum. We love to see that. Ooh, I like the little burrow trap here. This might end up stopping the shenanigans real fast. Smarty, you gotta pull back! You gotta pull back, Smarty! He wanted to kill that Quaz, but he only had 2 sims. That's not going to be enough DPS. Now he's got 3 sims. Maybe now he could do it. There's a couple more sims on the way. Is it just going to straight up be sims? He might just run him over with 4 lattice sim. This is going to be a very heavy, like, single target production push. And I love Jack trying to push out with the Kagra, but he's clearly floating gas here at this point. The Vornath pool now coming online. Sims continuing to multiply in number. He hasn't actually killed a Zerg unit yet. But you know what? Now he has. And Jack, okay, he trades back 1 sim for his own trouble. There we go, trying to jockey forward. There's 2 more sims on the way. The 4th lattice now complete. Where are the rest of the productions? You're going to have 3 pairs of Nathicores come out. Honestly, sims don't do terribly versus Naths. Look at that. Zet's trying to get out there, but they just get clipped by those incoming reinforcements. Now the burrows continuing to be played around with here. Jack trying his best to do the micro thing. A little bit of a dance going on for Smarty, but eventually he's going to go ahead and fall on back. Now see if he can do a little bit of heckling there. Remember that when they burrow, they do get a little bit more HP, but now, oh, you've procced a couple of splits. You're going to feed him a little bit more sims, and then you got to watch out, right? So Jack playing a little bit of a dangerous game here. His Nats might end up showing pretty soon. We've got a bunch of units back at home to deal with any such thing, and right now Smarty just kind of doing a pseudo contain with that sim push. Now he's going to go ahead and pull those units away from his main. He's going to continue making idols, continue making sims, and you know what, the Nats are actually going to maybe dive on here, but realistically speaking, right, what does SmrtyCakes do here? He doesn't end up turning to fight. He's just going to go ahead and fall away now and maybe do a little bit of a tickle and retreat at the end. This might be enough for Jack to maybe push out, but the idols are here to deal splash damage, so you do have to watch out for that. Sim's obviously single target by comparison. Okay, 10 pairs of Zets coming. If there's not that many idols. Okay, Jack, you're gonna maybe want to engage this a little bit more smartly, especially with Smarty coming up with so many idols. He is gonna splash down most of the Nathicores. There's only 3 idols left. One of them did get sniped out early, but the Sims continue to split, and now a couple more Nats are gonna come out and just get chewed up immediately. Bit of a misplay there from Jack as he comes out with a bunch of Zets. His Kagrant is now done. It will be turning into a Circuit. A couple of Sims come out from the mineral-only direction, and they're distracting some of Jack's forces. Even get a free split off there. That's gonna be more forces for Smarty as he continues to lay on the pressure. The Zets are evaporating. The idols mixed in to do just enough splash damage to really make this worth his while. More units coming out from that mineral-only position. Jack maybe overcommitting, trying to clear this out when he has a Circuit already. Doesn't need to be wasting all of these units, and now they're going to get clipped by those other Protoss units. Well, they allow him back in. They're generous, chivalrous individuals after all. Now, there is a golem being made. As you can see, I wasn't lying when I mentioned the charlatan icon is bugged for that. So the golem is being made, and it will definitely help Smarty maybe break this through. In fact, he's just going to go ahead and see if he can charge through it. Definitely wounds the Circuit quite a bit. He ends up losing a couple of Sims there, but at the same time, he's gotten a few more, right? So it might have just been dead even. Now the Sims are going to see if they can continue the push. Now, falling on back. Remember, the idle count growing. And as about right now, this is definitely going to favor the Protoss. You remember, you still collide with the burrowed units with the shots from the idol. So they are serving as a bit of a meat shield, but that Circuit is so close to death. It's just two or three hits away from death, and the Quas are all dying as well. That's going to be the first break in the defense. That other Kagrant down in the bottom, it looks like it will be allowed to finish, but I don't know that it's really going to matter that much because the Sim count is so damn high, and he's just going to charge forward. He snacks down that real easy Kagrant before it's even done, then finishes off the Circuit as more and more Quas are being made, but this is a runaway train, and it's only going one direction. It's going to Game 5 as jakulangski has almost certainly going to be giving up the ghost here. His Quas is all he has for tech. He has no Hydras. He has no Zoryus. There is nothing that he can do, and Jack will GG. Smarty takes us to a decider. I can hardly believe it. Here we are. GLHF noob, says the red Protoss. You know what happens when he's red? Wait, did he? I think he was red in the first game. That did not bode well for him. Jack might be on elimination point. Well, not really, because even if he loses here, he's going to the final series. But you know what? Jack is in the top left. This looks like electric orange. Oh, it's mango. Well, I still think that's like 80% color guess so far. I mean, we've gone to 5 games, and I think I only got 3 colors wrong. And that's, what, 10? So I guess it's 70% color guess, right? Anyway, you guys can tell me if I'm right. I'm pretty sure I guessed 3 colors wrong. I could have been doing worse than I thought, though. Smarty down here is going to be rocking the lattice instead. I believe our admin for this match was... Yep, it was... Well, actually, I don't know about that, because the GS2LQB... That is my style of naming them, but I think... not only does Inozlix do it, but now I think Shambler does it as well. I'm pretty sure Shambler was the one who gave me the set, but it might have been Inozlix, because I think Shambler did the last chance qualifier. Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right, well, Smarty has been showing a pretty good game with the lattices. I do like that it's a very different look than what we normally get out of Protoss. And even though the games are ending pretty fast, they're still pretty exciting, and I would say, honestly, fairly back and forth in a few cases. I think that last game was the most one-sided that we've actually seen, because there was no opportunity for Jack to get across the map. He did go for the Nats, but that did not work out very well at all versus the Idols. I wonder why he went Nats as well. Maybe he just had the gas and he didn't have the minerals, or Zeths, in fact, to turn into Vorvs. That could have been it. But, you know, once again, Jack going for the old reliable. He has not really moved from that early game opener. The only time that he did something different than, you know, Larvosk, Pool, 1 or 2 Larvosks, Expo, Vornath. Oh, he's going for a Vornath Rush now. Okay, this is interesting. Well, okay, we'll get back to that. But the only time he did something different in the very early game, or just in general in the early stages of the game, was that Zorka's push on Blackwater Bastion. And that was after Smarty surprised him with the classic move. Oh, I just realized I didn't update the score. I'm so sorry, Smarty. You are on match point, my man. You are both on match point. Let's go ahead and fix that right up. But with the Vornath Rush... that's a little bit of a different move, right? He still has a couple of quads, so it's hard to tell what he's doing. But you can tell that there's some shenanigans going on because there's no expo right now. I feel like as long as the sim sticks around long enough to see that, that's definitely going to be a good move. You can see him sharking a little bit further in, like, wait, do you not have a worker there or anything? Like, there's really nothing? So the sims are going to continue to be rallied across. I feel like the 3 Nathacores in the early stages of the game could be quite devastating, but it really depends on if the idols stay home or not, right? That's the ever-present question here for Smarty as he continues to try to heckle a little bit more when it comes to the sims. I think he's got one coming now. Yeah? No? Maybe just not narrowly, not quite. There's only 6 quads. Like, that should actually be kind of red flaggy, but, you know, Jack has been burrowing a lot, so maybe not, right? Let's see what happens here. He could, he pokes his head up there. He doesn't see anything. I don't know. He's got a couple units out here. Okay, the first round of Nats are coming. This could be either a really cool game or an anticlimactic one. Let's see how long it ends up lasting, because obviously the Nats coming across the map, but hey, Smarty's actually retreating with his sims. So you know what? It looks like he's setting up for an expansion, and his units should be in the area so that he can respond to the threat. We'll see what ends up happening there. I mean, you hang out that long and you don't see a Nexus, you're pretty sure that some shenanigans are happening, but... I don't know. This could also be heartbreak. Yeah, okay. This is gonna be bad. SmrtyCakes gonna have to fall on back. He ends up going for the double gate instead. He has no Nexus over here, so he has no idea that the Nats are gonna be there. He's gonna be halfway across the map before he sees the Nats swing on in. Now there is one idle, but it's not being microed. It is gonna end up going down very, very fast. He does fall back with his forces, and honestly, he should pull a couple of these workers away. At least get us a couple of pot shots with the Sims. Remember, he's still up in workers right now. Jack does not have an expansion coming, and here come the idols returning to form. Okay, he actually didn't lose that many workers. I thought he would lose way more. And he's actually going to clean up most of the Naths. Yeah, only one Nath actually surviving. So, oh, look at that. He even picks it off at the very end anyway. He still has a lot of idols. The question is, are his Sims going to be able to be in a position to deal with the Vorvs that come after? Remember, still a little bit of gas being harvested here, but Jack not actually putting it into anything just yet. Now, his Sims get to the bridge. I wasn't expecting him to try to hold here, especially considering the potential follow-up. And yeah, SmrtyCakes might actually get surrounded over here. Let's see if he can do something. He continues to orb walk back, which is the right move considering the Quads didn't catch up just yet. But now he's very far committed with the Vorvs. They are going to go for a complete surround. Nice cheese, he says. And that will actually be it. I pushed V. I wonder if, is that the key for the Vornath pod? Is that why? There must be some internal thing I'm not aware of for what happens. I guess Jack probably doesn't play with grid hockey, so yeah, pushing V. Pushing V means something a little bit different after COVID, but you know what? I'll give it to him. All right, well, Jakulangski is qualified to Acropolis #2 Battleman stage. These were some very volatile games, and I think Smarty kind of opted into that when he went for the Lattice openers. He was not happy with how Gateway was performing. And you know what? To his credit, going for the Sim Idol push, those were his most strong moves. I still think that Blackwater Bastion could have been a really good play for him. I do think that Vassal Scouting more often would also be a really good play, but overall, that is an interesting way to go about things. I mean, both players opting for pretty interesting options. I did like the adaptation back and forth. I have high hopes for SmrtyCakes going into the next series. He has one last chance to make it in to the Battleman stage of Acropolis #2. And I couldn't be happier to see him go up against Cannoli, his old sparring partner. He used to smack him around a bunch, but then got into stage A. Cannoli 2-0'd him in the opening. I was very surprised to see that. Let's see what happens going forward, because Smarty, he's taking games off of the Night Fox as Terran and Zerg. I think so anyway. They're definitely the Zerg. He's taking games off of Gerald Storm as Gerald Storm Zerg, obviously a very strong one, who also qualified. And he's obviously taken a couple of games off of Jack here and looked pretty good. Let's see what he can do up against his old practice partner. GG's, and we'll see you tomorrow.